I thought I'd make a video about what I do when I bring a new animal into the house. Now, I do have quite a few animals. I mean, for example, I have Cosmo. He's a black German Shepherd. I have two Pomeranians that are in the other room. And, Nova just came in. And so we got four dogs down here in the bunker now. Now, in the house, I got three Pomeranians up there. We got a bunch of cats outside. So, needless to say, I have a lot of animals. Now, the thing about that is you got to be very, very careful when you start getting more and more animals. Less careful if it's your first animal. But the biggest thing I don't want to hear is the word parvo. Now, parvo will stay in the soil for 15 years and kill your animals, is what it will do. And usually, when you see blood in their feces, it usually means a possibility of parvo. Not always. So, one of the biggest things is I immediately caged the dog. So I caged the new pup, and when I let him out of the cage, I have a concrete floor down here. So I am waiting for him to literally drop a load. And then I want to examine that load. I want to see if there's worms in it. I want to see anything that looks funny. Now, Nova was actually pure diarrhea. It was just like water. It was unbelievable. And it had blood in it. And I was like, oh my God, does this dog have parvo? And I was really, really scared about that. So as soon as the vet's office opened, I loaded her up, I took her down, and I had some tests done on her. It was $50 to check for a parvo check. It came back negative. Okay, so why do we have blood and why is it so much diarrhea? So then you go to the next process, and then they charge $30 for finding out what worms are in their system. Now, you don't have to pay for that. You could just deworm her for everything. I mean, that's another route you could go. I wanted to know exactly what was wrong. First time I've had this dog, I mean, I know nothing about it. I can only go by what the person that was breeding told me. And I can't go by that. People lie. I mean, anything that person tells me, I have to go on the idea that they're a liar. That's it. And it's sad, but that's the way people are, unless I have paper proof. And you'll notice anything with the US government or anything with anything, they always want paper proof because you can't trust people. And that's the way it is. Now, he originally said he gave Nova two 5-in-1 shots. I have no idea if that's true. You can do them yourself. You can get the stuff at Tractor Supply, but I have no proof. It's not like he took a video and said, read this, I'm sticking it in there. There was nothing. If you get it done at a vet, it's recorded, and the vet has that license. So, the route I went after checking for parvo, we checked for worms. That was $30. And that came back with hookworm. Now, hookworm actually imitates everything that looks like parvo, if you really think about it. I mean, hookworm ends up with blood in the feces, and it takes a little while to get rid of. The medicine, you give it to them, which I've given to her, and now 3 weeks from now, I got to give her another dose, which is $20. And in 3 months, just to make sure, give her another dose for another 20. So we're getting up there. Now, when it comes to hookworm, it's not something you get rid of instantly. It takes time. It takes 2 doses. And believe it or not, you can catch hookworm. You can get it if you're walking around with bare feet. You can catch it through the soles of your feet. Now, it can't live in you forever like it does a dog. I mean, after 12 weeks, it dies. So it's completely harmless to you. It's just your feet are going to be itchy like hell. And that's what hookworm. Now, at the same time, I got to monitor Nova over and over. I mean, I want to keep an eye on her. When is her stool going to get harder? When is she going to start feeling better? And she was given the medicine this morning, and it's been, 12, 14 hours. She still has some diarrhea. It's kind of like a mush. I still see a little bit of blood, not as much as I was before, and that's day one, and it's starting to get better. So that's good news. Now, I have to be able to monitor this, so I can't take her outside and train her. I have to let her basically urinate and defecate on the concrete floor because I can maintain it and clean it up. And I can take, I don't know if you've seen a yellow bucket in the back of my videos, that's there just for that case. You know, that bucket has bleach, pine sol, and a few other mixtures in there to make it sanitized. So once I pick it up, I then take that bucket, I bring it out, and I give it a good washing down so Cosmo doesn't get infected for when I let Cosmo out of his cage. Now, I've been slowly introducing them through their cages with each other, and that's coming out pretty good. But Nova's kind of scared, and Cosmo wants to dominate. And Cosmo is so excited all the time, it makes it really difficult. So, back to what we've done. We've tested for parvo, we've tested for the worms, we know which worm it is. Um, all said and done, I had a vet come in. I mean, a bunch of things I did. It came out to about $200 by the time I was done. So now, $200 for the dog, $200 for the vet visit, and that still doesn't include rabies. We're going to do rabies next visit because when you give them the 5-in-1, let me explain that. The vet says to me, I says, well, the breeder says he gave him two 5-in-1s. And she looked at me, she says, how do we know that? I says, I guess we would be going on his word, and I don't have a clue who he is, and I don't even know him. She says, exactly. She says, I would suggest we start the 5-in-1 over. I says, can we do that? She says, yes, we can. I says, all right, well, let's start the 5-in-1 over. So she gave him a needle for a 5-in-1. And in 3 weeks, we'll go back for a dose of the worms medicine and do another 5-in-1, I guess. And do a rabies. The 5-in-1 does give a little bit of shock to their system. It does protect them from parvo and many, many other things. But I want to make sure. I want to make sure. When I get a dog, I keep it for life. That dog never sees another home. I mean, just recently, we've lost 3 dogs. A lot of my dogs I've gotten, we got them 12 years ago. Luna, my other German Shepherd, passed, and she died at 10 years old. I thought it was 8. When we looked it up, it was 10 years old, which is quite normal for a German Shepherd. And then I've had a couple Pomeranians die. They were 12 years old. I think one was 13. But, when they reach that age, between 10 and 12, your dogs start to die. And one mistake we never thought about, a lot of the dogs we got them all at the same time. Like I have 3 Pomeranians that were all sisters. They all came from the same litter. And we got them fixed. And we just thought it would be kind of cute if they all got to grow up together. One of them died. And I have 2 left that are actually in the other room. And I have a feeling one's actually not doing so good. But that's life, and that's the way it is. Now Cosmo, he's a new German Shepherd that happened to show up at my house and with barbed wire wrapped around his throat, and he got lucky. And he's basically got a good home till the rest of his life. He's male, he's black, and I don't know if you've seen in the one video, but he's quite big. And then, which when I picked up Nova, she, hopefully she works out and they get along and then they can play together. I can hardly wait for that day. I'm really working hard at trying to do that, is what I'm trying to do. So you're going to look at probably 200 is what I paid for the dog, then 200 for all that other stuff. And it has an end. Like I said, I got to go in 20, 20, 20, so another $60. I got to go in for rabies. There's probably another couple hundred there just in that. So now we do offer deals around here. I mean, at times in the spring, I think it is, when they offer rabies shots for anybody that can't afford it for $10 or something like that. I'm definitely not going to wait. I'm going to get all this done and finished as soon as possible. I want her to be her normal self and healthy and not have any worms. Now, once I have the dog at the point where I need her to be, now I know everything about her. She's got a medical record. She has everything she needs. Now, if I decide, for example, and here's another reason why I get it done all by a vet and all recorded. If I decide to go to Canada, for example, I can go to my vet now and say, can I have a health record? She'll give me a health record, and I can produce that at the border, and they'll let me cross with no problem. It'll show she's had her shots. It'll show she's got rabies. It'll show everything has been taken care of by an actual vet. That's important. Very important. At the same time, if your dog is to bite somebody, and you can't produce that your dog has rabies or you've taken care of your dog, you're going to have a very hard time protecting your dog, is what you're going to have. Because, like I said, nobody's going to believe you. As far as everybody's concerned, you're a liar unless you got it on paper and you got a vet stamping it. And that's very important. Now, once your dog is all completely healthy, then I go to the point of, we got to start training. And I do a little bit of training in between, but I don't want to make it too stressful on her right now. So I go on the idea of getting her leash trained. And she's coming along with that. I've had her out 4 times on the leash. I don't really yank it. I kind of put a little pressure to it to get her walking with me. And that's coming along pretty good. She is able to pull herself out of it. So that's something I need to fix. I think I need to get her a choker chain, a choker collar, I mean. But overall, the first thing I'm going to work on with her, like I did with Cosmo, was the word come. And what I mean by that, not just, you're 2 feet away from me and I tell you to come and you come. No, I want to know you're 50 feet away from me and I say come and you come running and you sit right down in front of me. That's what I want. And I do that with a long line. It's 100 feet. It's just 100 feet of rope. And dogs don't understand distance. So when they run off, and I'll kind of let them run off, and I'll walk in a square, okay? And I'll just let them do what they want. I'll hold the rope here to my chest, and I'll walk a big square in a field. And every time they try to run, they'll flip over backwards. I just keep walking. I ignore them. Sooner or later, what happens is that dog comes running up beside me because it doesn't understand distance. It doesn't want to be pulled backwards. Well, the next thing you know, I've just taught that dog to walk beside me. I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing at all. Now, at the same time, now that I've got them on the long line, I'll use the word come, and they better come right away. Because if they don't, now I can yank on that, and I can say, hey, I can still reach you out there. And in their mind, they think, oh boy, oh boy. Now, I do have a shock collar, and I had no choice but to use that on Cosmo, my black German Shepherd, because he is just crazy like he's on crack. And what's funny with that, I haven't used it that much. I mean, I'll put it on him, and when he really starts to get out of hand, I'll shock him once, and that'll be it. So then after that, I only got to hit a bell, a beeper sound, and he still thinks he has it on. Even when I take it off and I set it on my desk, all I got to do is pick up that remote and say, are you going to be bad? And he'll run behind my chair and sit down. He still thinks he's got the collar on. So all I do is hit the beeper, and he just straightens right out, which is kind of funny. But it does come in handy for a training tool. I've also got a claw collar, which are pretty expensive. I'll show you that one day. It's right there. Give me that. That black one. Yeah. See, I've got this here, and I've used this twice now. I haven't been out too much with it because of how hot it is, basically. So here it is here, and this goes around his neck, okay? Is what that does. Then we grab it from the top, and then the two you connect, okay? And then that goes in. Now, these are not, they're not pointed or anything, and you don't yank on it, until you hurt them. This is just to apply some pressure. And that's for a dog that's really trying to pull you the next week. Cosmo's so big that he could literally put me down on my belly if he wanted to. So when you put this on and he's getting too excited and you give it a little jerk, he'll sit right away. So it's not like you're hurting him. It's just applying a little bit of pressure. So between a shock collar and this collar, it's basically, it's just gold when you're training them. And this thing wasn't cheap. By the time I was done, I think it was like $60. But you're going to need certain training aids when you get into German Shepherds. It's just not vet bills. Now, once you get the training aids, once you get your halters, your collars, everything you need, then it does start to get a little bit cheaper. I've got like 4 halters here. I've got sunglasses. I mean, all kinds of goofy things that I work on for training type of thing. But one thing's for sure, if you're going to go out and get a new German Shepherd or a new dog, don't let them associate with your other dogs. They could have parvo, they could have anything. Make sure you take them to a vet, spend that $200, and make sure that dog is checked out from head to toe. Because the last thing you want is that dog giving your other dog stinks, because that could turn into more money. So you take, for example, Nova has hookworm. So if all of a sudden Nova and Cosmo are playing together, Nova actually goes to the bathroom, and all of a sudden Cosmo decided to eat it, which can happen. So now we've just transmitted that hookworm to Cosmo, right? And now that just turned into more money for you. You want to keep that dog isolated for at least a good month. I got to keep Nova isolated for a good month here until we get that second dose in her. And I'm monitoring everything. Like I said, she goes on the concrete floor. I clean it up. I mean, there is no way any other dog's going to get hookworm. And basically, that's the way I do things. Now, once Nova's all healed up and everything's good, and now her stool's firm and everything's looking good, and she's starting to play now. I actually made her a rope that she's playing with. Then you're actually going to be to that point. But let's say, for example, you get a dog, you put her outside, him, and the dog has parvo. And now you've contaminated your property with parvo for the next 15 years, which means you'll never be able to get a dog. And that's something to consider. So when you buy a dog, understand where you're going to quarantine that dog. In a garage, you got to have some place to quarantine it, right? And once you do that and you get the vet check, I mean, beautiful. Now you can speed this process up. I mean, obviously there are some breeders that are more responsible than other breeders, and that's just how things is. Some people are just out to make money. You have to determine what you want at that point. There's some breeders you go to, they'll give you the paperwork that says, okay, this dog's had this 5-in-1, this dog's had this, here's all the paperwork. Well, now you got the proof. In my case, this guy didn't have no proof of anything whatsoever. So it's just the nature of the beast. So right now, I guess I'm into about $400 for a dog, and probably another 100 later. I mean, dogs cost money. They're kids. Food. Do you buy the cheapest food, which is garbage for them? Do you buy something a little bit better? Being that Nova's a puppy, I mean, she's going to need puppy food, and it helps with her bones. There's a lot of things to consider. I'm probably going to pick up some vitamins for her too. But it determines on money, and if you have time to spend with them. You really have to have time to spend. Being I work at home, I don't punch a clock. I don't leave my house. My dogs are with me all the time. They're not sitting in a cage crying, I got to go to the bathroom, let me out, let me out. No, once they pot the cage, I get up, I let them out. One's out doing his thing. I give them a good couple hours, play around. Sometimes I'll play with them myself with the rope, and okay, back in the cage you go. Next dog. If the dog goes, clean it up. I mean, it's a process. But being I don't work, I have that time. Sometimes I'll take 2 hours and take them out for some training. Now, lately, the last month, nobody's gotten any training. It's just too friggin' hot out there. I've got some cots and some other things I want to videotape for product reviews, but it's just been too hot. That's it. I'm not going out there. As soon as I leave the bunker to go to the house, I mean, oh my God, it's so horrible. We're starting to get a little bit cooler, but it's still pretty horrible. So when you get a dog, really consider money, time. I mean, this is all important. I don't get a dog to get rid of them. Anytime I get an animal, it stays with me till it dies. German Shepherds usually 10 or 12 years. Pomeranians 12 years. I mean, that's it. It's with me for life. And it has the best home it could ever have. And it doesn't realize it until it starts to begin life with me. Nova's been like, oh my God, she comes over and jumps up on the side of the chair now, wants pets. I mean, she's just turning quite lovable, is what she's doing. But a lot of people get big dogs like German Shepherds and they'll tie them outside. My dogs don't go outside unless I'm outside. My dogs have never been tied to a tree unless I'm hiking and I'm camping in my truck. Then I'll tie them to a tree because the place wants animals to be on leashes. Okay, my animals don't run free, ever. They're always leashed. And that's very important to me. German Shepherds are looked upon as being a horrible biting dog. And, the public has this bad thing about them, where my dogs aren't like that. If I walk down the street when there's a festival here downtown with my Cosmo, my black German Shepherd, he's big. Okay, when I walk down the street with him on my side and he walks nice, it's like looking at the people on the sidewalk part like the Red Sea. It's it's something to see. Maybe sometime I'll record that when we got a big festival here. I'll take him down there and show you guys. But you just know from that reaction, and he's not growling, nothing. He's just walking proud. And people actually separate. They grab their kids and pick them up, and I'm just like, I'm just giggling. You know, I get the odd person that comes up and says, "Can I pet your dog?" And it's usually some little tiny kid, and I'll put him down and sit, and then I'll put my hand on one side of his head just in case, and I'll say, "Yes, you can pet him. Go ahead," and then I'll watch. But I mean, my dogs are really good, and I spend a lot of time with them. But please, if you're going to get a German Shepherd, don't see a video like mine or somebody else's and on social media and get all excited and say, "Oh, I want that dog." You know, don't get into that. Really think about the vet bills. Really think about, you know, they're going to tear things up. They're going to wreck things. Really think about what you're getting into. Like Nova yesterday decided to get underneath my chair, and I don't know how she did this, but the paneling on my wall, she came out with a piece of paneling about that wide, that long, out from underneath the desk, and she had this in her mouth just a trotting across the bunker here like, "Look what I got." And I just opened my eyes as big as marbles and said, "Where did you get that? Oh my God." So now I got to jump out of the chair, get that out of her mouth before she gets splinters in her ass, and get that away from her. And then I got to crawl on my hands and knees and look under the desk, see where you ripped that off. Oh, big hole. I got to replace that whole sheet. And I was like, I've got everything dog proof down here. And of course, she found one thing. So anyhow, give it some thought. But if you're going to get a new dog, please make sure you take them down, vet check them, and really make sure you're not infecting other animals or anything. Catch you guys on the next one.